Welcome, David. Our guest today is David Princeton, the founder and CEO of Advocate Risk Network. He had a very interesting journey that led him to this work that he does for high net worth individuals and insurance. So he's based close to Milwaukee in Wisconsin, and he services the entire United States. So welcome, David, and a pleasure to have you and talk to you again.
Thank you, Francis. Pleasure to be here.
Wonderful. So why don't you tell us a few words about your business, the size of your business, but also what got you here and into this particular business, because you have a niche that's interesting to our audience. So go ahead.
Sure. Advocate Risk Network's origin story started when I was in the private equity world, and essentially a PE group that I was involved in decided they wanted to divest and dissolve. And I figured people kind of needed some help with navigating insurance because that was my role within the private equity group was I was a director of corporate risk over 10 different industry verticals. And I served as a sophisticated buyer of insurance coverage as we placed all of our different coverages across different markets and different agencies. So I privatized it when I started to pursue a higher education degree because the divestment kind of crescendoed, if you will, with my acceptance into that higher education. So I figured I'd hustle, and that's what I did. So that was about 6 years ago now. And we've grown. And so we're based out of primarily two states. So our corporate office is in Wisconsin. We have another location in Austin, Texas. We are currently 3 employees strong. We're looking to add about two more this year.
Wonderful. And your higher education is in law. You're a lawyer, which I think is very interesting because you add a very strategic thinking to your work. Not only risk analysis, but also, I mean, a more holistic approach, to my view. So that leads us to what would you say is a core philosophy of Advocate Risk Management as an independent consultancy?
Yeah, so we're essentially just client focused, client first is our core philosophy. So we ultimately look to make sure that policyholders get the full indemnity and the full promise that they actually think they're purchasing. So we tend to provide clarity. We tend to partner with brokers because brokers, call it the air of commission, could sometimes lead buyers to think that these recommendations may only be coming because of a sale. But we kind of take that piece out of it because our clients pay us directly. We're there to analyze the risk and ultimately to help ensure placement. So brokers tend to end up liking us a lot because we help them move the product. And then we also have some friction with brokers because we want things changed within those products to particularly pick up a risk or to eliminate a gap within the program. So, and it leads to more sophisticated negotiations ultimately with brokers and with the carrier partners that they enjoy because we are strategically placing risk. We want to make sure that when it comes time for us to call on this promise, that there's a better path towards resolution and not necessarily a denial letter, right?
Mm, got it, of course. So then okay, so that leads the question, or that's the answer maybe to the next question, which is what is the unique value that you bring to your clients? So no denial letter, okay?
Yeah. Well,
Anything else
and
that you would,
I,
yeah.
I would say from a unique value perspective, we do more than just insurance placement. So we're comprehensive in terms of our risk analysis. We have a certified safety professional on staff that can do site reviews and other things and develop safety programs. We have a large network of other independent vendors, and that's kind of right in the name, right? So Advocate Risk Network. So we're more than just who we are. It's a lot of people that we know they can deliver on their promises and fit needs. So whether it's, engineering, loss control, building reviews, analyses, if we need to put together an emergency response plan, active shooter, whatever the case may be, whatever the needs the client might have, we tend to know people that we can bring in if we can't self-perform it.
Mm.
So I would say that our unique value proposition is more so just the 20 plus years that I have and the 25 plus years our other guy has in terms of bringing comprehensive solutions to clients that are concerned about the risks their businesses face.
Mm. And you also emphasize the independence, that your firm, has. So could you tell us how you see that serve better your clients? What advantage that presents for them?
Yeah. So, core thing of any type of agency relationship is where does the money come from? Because that's usually who you owe a duty of loyalty to, right? And so, in our situation, we're 100% paid by our clients. We don't split commissions, share in anything with the broker, no contingent commissions, nothing like that.
Mhm.
And so, essentially, our clients get our absolute loyalty. And we are just 100% fixated on what our client needs. We have no other performance obligations. We have no other products we need to move, right? And we just try to distill the noise that kind of comes into these transactions sometimes. And we really just focus on the client, right? The client, the risk, their vendor relationships, whatever it might be, the contractual risk transfer. The one thing that might be interesting, Francis, as I think of Solar Express AI and what you guys are trying to do, right? Um, Imagine everybody loving your product but never looking at your terms and conditions,
Mhm.
right? And we all know what's hiding in that little I agree button, right? It's all of the indemnity, it's all of the, what happens when, trademarks, licensing, all of this kind of fun stuff that just kind of lurks in our world. And what we try to do is we try to actually look at those things. We try to understand them, and we try to make sure that when something does befall our clients,
Mhm.
that those things are properly funneled and channeled away from them. Or if they're accepting them as part of the negotiations of a deal, that there's an awareness to it. And then we decide if an insurance product is the right thing
Mhm.
to ultimately shed that risk, or is there some other, financing mechanism that we need to look at? So, so
So,
really, it's very comprehensive in terms of how we try to analyze a business. And most of our clients are about 30 to $60 million in revenue per year. That seems to be about where CEOs start to lose sleep, and they don't necessarily want somebody who's full time on their staff, type of a thing, and they tend to enjoy having us bolt onto theirs and
yeah,
provide solutions.
as a fractional, risk.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and honestly, I wish I could say it's fractional, but risk doesn't sleep.
No,
Risk
no, I
is
get it.
always there,
I get
right?
it.
Type of a thing. We do operate on a fixed fee basis, right? So we don't bill for time. It's an annual fee for service agreement. And then we don't put limitations on ourselves, right? We learned early on in the business that nobody likes getting an hourly bill. So and then when in some of our reporting relationships, the CFO was getting a report card about what their people didn't know, right? So you called David and you talked to him for this long and it was about this thing. Why didn't you know that? Right?
Mm.
Type of a thing. So we got away from hourly billing essentially in our first 6 months, went to an annual subscription fee for service, and then that way we don't have limitations on our ability to provide to our clients, right? We ultimately control the service, we ultimately control what we deliver, and it's not limited by somebody saying only spend 3 hours on this, right?
I wish lawyers were adopting the same model. So,
Yeah, yeah,
for,
yeah. That's a totally different paradigm. So,
I know, I know too well. So for
yeah,
your high net, we all do. So for
yeah.
your high net worth and corporate clients, those 30 to 60 million dollar businesses, is there anything specific that makes your approach? I mean, although you just said something very important, your approach distinctive in addressing their unique needs. So certainly your subscription model, right, which I
Yes.
think
Well,
is
so the subscription model's one. I think honestly, it's reading things. As weird as that may seem, you would be surprised how many insurance brokers don't read the contract that the client is entering into to build that building, renovate their school, right? Buy that software program, and then read that in conjunction with the insurance policy,
mm,
right? We had an aviation prospect where we were told essentially that we must know a lot more than the high-priced lawyers that wrote all this stuff.
yeah.
And turns out the risk they thought they were transferring wasn't picked up by the program, and the risk they were putting on their clients wasn't picked up by their program either.
Mm,
So in terms of a jet lease arrangement, so there's all kinds of just different things that you can find out when you actually take the time to read it.
Right.
These aren't small contracts. They're 400 pages in an insurance policy sometimes. Construction agreements can be hundreds of pages. My favorite thing to find is the little hyperlink that says, please see these terms and conditions here. And then you end up six deep in terms of other hyperlinks that then jumps to. Sometimes I describe this as trying to thread a needle from 30 feet away, right? And the idea is to try to get as close to that eyelet as you can.
Mm. So it's interesting. So when I'm listening to you, I think your private equity background, which is all about, financial investments, return investments, and your legal background combined, I think has developed strongly that lens that you apply to your high risk or high net worth individuals who are at high risk because the amounts of money that we're discussing, of course, as you said, is the moment that they start losing sleep because the stakes are so high. So so two questions. One is, how do you compare to competition? Do you have competition? Because is it like is it an original lens that you apply that they won't find anywhere else, or is it something that they can find somewhere else? But of course, you do it with your own unique um, personality, experience, team, network. So tell us more how you position yourself on the market.
Yeah. So, interestingly enough, I feel like I'm originating this type of a thing, and it's driven out of just my experience and my needs. As I've engaged more in social media, I've see different insurance agencies kind of advertise different ways that they try to help clients manage risk. And this is the global brokers, right? So your big three, your big four, some of your small mom and pops. The one thing I don't know that other people can do that we're positioned to do is sort of that bridge between insurance and legal, right? And then also just the safety and the risk component of it. The what I haven't found is I couldn't tell you somebody else or the name of another company that kind of does what we do. I know of a lot of insurance nerds. Got an incredible network, and I'm part of a couple professional associations where I'm actually looking forward to speaking at one coming up in Reno for the American Association of Insurance Management Consultants. So basically, just a room full of 40 experts, just like myself, or professionals like myself, who sit around and are going to nerd out for 3 days over, should a comma be here? Should this be a semicolon? What's the impact, right?
Mhm.
All of those kind of fun things that we kind of nerd out about insurance contracts. So
So then, with that high intellectual, high IQ that you bring, to your clients in the way you review contracts, in the way you anticipate, in the way you calculate. So what are some of the key trends and challenges you observe in the insurance industry right now and risk management? And how do these translate into challenges for ensuring your clients have the best coverage?
yeah, so the main one that I see is this perception that price reflects promise, or that the coverage is actually reflected in the price being quoted. Others would attribute this to that, save 15% in 15 minutes mentality that kind of drove a lot of people to base pricing off or base price shopping coverage off of pricing. But these things aren't fungible, right? I can't put $2 on a table and say that or I can put $2 on a table and say that they're equal, right? What I can't do is put two insurance policies on the table and say that these things are equal, so just pick the cheaper one. So number one is price does not reflect promise. I think the other thing that's happening is carriers used to thrive on stability and predictability within what the promise was sold, right? So you have professional organizations like the Insurance Services Organization out there, so ISO coverage forms for those playing at home, right? And so you used to be able to look at the bottom of a contract and it would say ISO service or ISO Insurance Services Organization or offices and a copyright date,
Mhm.
right? And then you knew you were dealing with sort of a quote unquote standardized contract.
Mhm.
Well, now what you're going to see is this evolution where one, it's not there at all. So now it's a manuscript form, right? Two, if it is there, it says used with permission from insurance services offices. And ISO is not the only one. There's other organizations that do this, but the that used with permission means something changed.
Mhm.
And my job is to figure out what changed, right? And that can be the changing from and to an or, and being able to measure the that type of a conjunction, and whether it's conjoining something and or disjuncting something or, right? And what is the impact of that on that promise? What's the foreseeability from a policyholder perspective when it comes time for that indemnification, right? So that's probably the biggest thing that I'm seeing, which is, so it's not just promise or payment equals promise.
Mhm.
It's also carriers are starting to get away from this predictability of stability, meaning the standardized contract form, and they're starting to get into all of these different sort of manuscript changes, and they want to better understand the limitations of their promises and how that's going to impact their profitability,
Mhm.
right? Because on the other side of every promise to indemnify somebody is a for-profit organization trying to generate revenue to invest to
Yeah.
get returns back to shareholders,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
At the calculated risk. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those would be my two largest trends. And then the methods that everybody's accomplishing it. I mean, certainly AI is right there in the conversation for everything that I think is going on in the market. A lot of the big ones are developing their own. Back when I worked on the carrier side, I mean, they started this in 2007, right?
Mhm.
Artificial intelligence has been around since the 50s in one way or another as it's slowly developed.
Yeah.
So we're just kind of seeing all of it come into a consumer front-facing, business-facing
Mhm.
mentality nowadays.
Mm. Mhm. Wonderful. Thank you so much for those insights. They're very, very sharp. So now you are integrating AI, I'm sure, into your organization. So what would you say the biggest hurdles are for you in this process of bringing AI-based solutions into your business, and particularly concerning the availability of relevant data for large language models, to process and provide very sharp, again, insights. What are your hurdles in doing this?
Yeah. So we actually see a couple different hurdles. One is the power of prompting, right? So how you're asking AI to interact with the next thing that you're about to tell it. The other is the information that comes back. It's not reliable in and of itself,
Hmm.
meaning you can't ask it a question, get an answer, and just carry that forward in your practice, right? You ultimately have to have your own personal intelligence and knowledge behind it to validate the information it's giving you.
Mm.
And then there's other biases that I see in terms of its positive framing. So a lot of times I'm looking for potentially like anti-evidence. I'm looking for the other side of this opinion, but it's going to give me things in a positive reference toward, framed towards the way in which my question is asked. So to that end, a lot of the available resources that are out there, they don't seem to know a lot about insurance. Insurance as an industry was largely allegory, right? I know just from my own age when I came up in insurance, you got an interesting question and you went and talked to the guy that's been there forever, right? And then they tell you how that thing is handled, or we just do it this way.
Hmm.
And so much of that allegory is gone. The industry's only gotten younger in terms of the people that are being put in place of management and leadership and other things. 2 to 3 years experience, and now they're a manager, is very kind of scary to a guy like me, right? When you think of the amount of knowledge a manager might need to guide a unit, whether that's underwriting claims, et cetera.
Sure.
And then the other thing I would just generally say is beyond sort of prompting guidance, we're a company of three. We're looking to add two more people. We are developing our own AI tools.
Hmm.
I think any business that isn't looking for sort of that artificial intelligence edge to either give back their own time or to empower their people to conduct transactions faster. We live in a world where transactional relationships are becoming the standard, regardless of how complex it is, right? We kind of joked about attorney hourly billing, right?
Mm.
Right now, if you were to go and look out or just kind of use your favorite search engine and look, how many lawyers are getting in trouble for artificially intelligence hallucinated cases that are being cited to in their briefing and everything else?
Yeah.
So it's everywhere, even industries that want to bill by a minute, right? Like they shouldn't be looking for efficiencies, but they are,
Yeah.
because there's just too many things that sort of have to move, and the amount of resources available are more limited.
Hmm. So how do you handle this? Like the saving time aspect of AI and at the same time the limits, that should not be overlooked.
Yeah. So the thing that we try to do is we try to use AI for a general overall lift, right?
Hmm.
So if we're comparing two policies, for example,
Yeah.
we've developed our own way to sort of benchmark and check that using artificial intelligence. So
Mm.
we put it through our own system. Once it goes through that system, the next phase of that for myself or Justin is to actually read both policies. And then we compare that back to what the AI gave us so we can, one, refine our own AI tool so we can get better and faster in the future. But two, is what's kind of interesting about it. So we have about 50 years of experience between Justin and I, right? It's interesting the things that AI points out in the contract comparison that I may not have pointed out, that I may not have had on my checklist. And it
Mm.
puts you into sort of an interesting question. So that's been one of the bigger, more interesting things is we as professionals tend to get a little too narrow in terms of what we know and what we look for because you
Yeah.
get comfortable, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And AI doesn't have that comfort because it
Yeah.
doesn't know any better.
Yeah.
So it might throw you some pretty wild stuff that you can rule out right away, but it might throw you some stuff that's pretty dang thoughtful. And then you want to put that quiet time of contemplation into it.
Yeah.
So that's probably one of the bigger things I'm seeing.
Mm. Business growth, future vision. Okay, you told us that you wanted to add staff to your team, so with a relatively small pool of clients, if I remember well, yes. What is your next level of growth as an organization, both in terms of client acquisition and service expansion?
Yeah. So what we're trying to focus on right now, with respect to the staffing that we have or the staffing that we're looking for, is one is somebody that can do some of this benchmarking and checking
Hmm.
that Justin and I currently engage in, right? So somebody that can work with our AI platforms to ultimately refine them, get them to a point where when we look at them, we know that there's a certain amount of vetting that has occurred,
Yep.
because that frees Justin and I up for more meaningful work,
Hmm.
right? The other thing I would just say from a client perspective, we are small in terms of the number of clients that we have, but the meaning and the value that we derive to those clients, I think, is the priceless part, quite honestly.
Hmm.
So many times nobody's ever read the thing, and back when I was an adjuster, with nobody actually reading the thing, that's when the wheels come off the bus that everybody put a lot of time, money, and effort into, right? Um, so it's the I would say that as we look at our own business paradigm, and we try to grow this thing, one is a contracts analyst, and the other one is as more and more things get bought up. We're looking for somebody with more of like a CPA tax advantage background to
Hmm.
help us better understand mergers and acquisitions. Just as our clients grow, as they get acquisition offers, we want somebody with some of that experience to ultimately help inform us about all of the things that kind of come into those risk moments
Hmm.
when two companies are considering getting hitched together, right? Or one's going to acquire another. And mainly what's driving a lot of that is, as Main Street slowly disappears and new Main Street's coming out, right?
Yeah.
It's people like me with experience doing other things. Insurance agencies have been acquired rather hotly for the last decade. I don't see that slowing down as everyone tries to buy a premium base, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think those are kind of the two skill sets that we're trying to position ourselves for now in terms of our recruiting.
Hmm. So because you're somebody who assess, deeply and calculate risks and of course think of ROI, My question for you in this phase of growth, I think you moved to a new space, to a new workspace, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And then you're gonna add on a couple of employees or partners or associates. So how do you assess really AI's performance for your business, in terms of productivity, in terms of ROI, ROI, sorry. Yeah. I
Yeah.
call it RAI, but ROI.
Yeah. So our return on the AI investment, I think it's still in the investment phase. I don't think it's in a return phase for us, because it while it's doing things,
Mm-hmm.
it's still learning. It's in its infancy, at least as far as something that is, call it as niche as we are and what we're trying to accomplish with it. I'll give you an example. So we are in a new office space. I'm speaking to you from our new media studio for virtual meetings, and I have no idea how to put any of this stuff together. So what did I do? I asked AI. I described the size of the room, right? I explained what my goals were, and I said, "Tell me what I should use." It literally gave me a shopping list. And then I gave it a budget. And then it made recommendations with respect to my budget about the products that I was going to purchase. Right. And here I am. It looks pretty good,
Yes,
right? The sound quality is coming through. I probably got to figure out makeup, right, for my little shiny here, but
that's right.
that's just Mother Nature. Yeah, but you've got good lighting. You're nice and balanced with your virtual background. So
Thank
I don't have a virtual background right now, but
Yeah.
but that to me was a really good use of AI where I didn't have to go hire somebody to tell me how to set up a media studio,
Mm,
right? And there's other indications of that in terms of just what AI does. There's a gentleman right now that hits my reels, right? My media feeds, my social media feeds, that's touting ways to pay off your mortgage faster, right? So I took that gentleman's name because when you click on the link, you hit a paywall, right? So I took that gentleman's name and I just asked AI, "What's this guy selling?" And it completely broke down that program. Then I
Wow.
gave it my own variables and I said, "Well, these are my variables. What can I do?" And it literally gave me a formula, right, to go out and, start engaging in this other financial way. And I could potentially pay off my mortgage in 7 years. It literally told me exactly what to do month over month.
Wow.
Right? Now, here's the caveat that I'll give to all of that, right? In both of these instances, the media thing or the mortgage hypothetical, right? The media thing I took action on
Mhm.
because it's consumer products, it's links to my favorite mobile delivery service, right? And if something goes wrong, I can return it.
Yeah.
The mortgage one, I didn't take action on because that has the ability to financially impact not only my business, my family, and other things.
Of course.
I'm going to probably want to talk to someone,
Of
right,
course.
before I go into that.
Yeah.
And then same thing back with my own criticism of AI in my own industry, right? It looks really credible if you don't know anything about it,
Mm.
right?
Hmm.
And so I don't know anything about mortgaging and mortgages and finance and whether what it told me was good or not good, right?
Mm.
And so that I think is one of those value propositions for, I'll describe it as micro entrepreneurs like myself at this point, that if
Mm.
you know a lot about a specific industry, there's going to be a lot more people that are going to do some type of AI search first
Mhm.
before they come and talk to you. And when they come and talk to you, they'll be better informed, but they may also be misinformed.
Mm.
And so the building of that credibility, I think, is going to be key because if you don't have the credibility at the beginning, they're going to always default to technology telling them the truth,
Mhm.
right?
Mm.
So that's sort of my hedge against, call it just AI running wild and everybody taking action based on it, because there's a lot to unpack there in terms of how that answer came to be.
Sure. Well, that also speaks to the number of clients that you have. Can you tell us how many you have?
Yep. So on the high net worth side, I currently serve three individuals. Net worth's side is like, I always use Oprah as sort of my example, right? So Oprah's got all this risk all across the world, and the last thing she wants to do is have to meet with her insurance agent, right? Or potentially rely on her business manager, just kind of handle it all. So that's what how I describe it there. And then on the corporation side, so we work with the nation's largest, I believe that they are the nation's largest school choice program, Christian school choice program in America.
Mm,
So we work with them both as a risk management advisor and in other ways. And then we work with a lot of developers, large subcontractors, and from a sheer number perspective, I think we're somewhere around six risk management clients, three high net worth individuals right now. So, and that's enough to keep three people busy, along with doing sort of claims advocacy as well. So, in the claims advocacy, it's kind of all comers, if you will.
mhm,
So we don't necessarily discriminate whether it's commercial or personal when it comes to somebody being paid their proper indemnity amount at the time of loss. So we ultimately analyze those policies, figure out the strategic way to present a claim,
mm,
and that's all done on contingency fee.
mm.
So
So you really are high-end craftsmanship with expertise, at the highest level. So
yeah.
wonderful.
I
Congratulations.
described myself as bespoke, and then
Yes.
somebody said, I've never heard a public adjuster describe themselves as bespoke before. That's just not words people use, but
Yeah.
that's one of the licenses we have is public adjusting, risk management, insurance producer. So
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you very much for your thoroughness in thinking, and your being so candid about sharing about the work you do and the great work you do and the I think exemplary, stance that you have in this industry. So thank you very much. It was a pleasure to have you. And maybe in a year you'll come back, once those two people have been onboarded and AI has been more integrated, there will be more story to tell, and that would be our pleasure to have you back.
yeah, I
Thank
look
you.
forward to it, Francis.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, David. Yes, appreciate it. Okay.